Hello, this is Tanmay, and today in this video, we will be creating a custom template in Google Tag Manager. As mentioned in the previous video, using the custom template feature of the GTM, we can create our own user interface for our scripts. In simple words, if we write some piece of code, that means some piece of script, then for that we can integrate some UI components that the user can interact and we can get hold of some value. So we will be doing the same. In the previous video, I explained to you the URL 2.0 by Simo Ahava that I am using currently in my project. So this is a custom template that I have directly imported into my project, and I don't need to have any kind of changes to be done before using it. It's just plug and play. Similarly, I have also created my own template for this purpose, and I have named it add form tag. The demonstration will be based on a platform called AdForm, and to make your own template, you'll have to click on this new button, and here you can get started with all the options. You can pass on the name, the description, and if you just select show advanced settings here, you can just tick on this agree to community and get to know that okay, the container text context is web and all that. I'll show you how I have created the add form tag template. So basically, I want to write some custom piece of custom script as well here. So we'll be using this code section very extensively for this purpose. And starting with some basic things, it is for the info. The name I have given as add form tag. The brand name is just some add form unofficial I've given it. And the description is this is template for add form. And you can just click on this agree to community template gallery terms of service. And if you want to see the advanced settings, you can just click on these three dots and show advanced settings here. So it gives you the options of version and container context as well. Now, right now the tag configuration that you are seeing, this is the user interface that I have already created. That means if I import the template, if a user imports this template, then similar fields will be displayed in front of her or him, and he or she will be able to input certain values, use these custom input values, and also add rows here. So all these UI we have created. Now moving on to the field section, this is where all the magic is happening and all the UI elements are being added right from here. And if we talk about how actually this is functioning, then that will be in the code section. But before that, I would like to go to the permission section. Now here, I have added access global variables as these three global variables. Now these three I am using in my code. So to avoid any error that comes onto the GTM console, I have already passed these into the global variable list. You can also do the same while creating your own template. And if you select one of these, you can always edit the permission that a particular global variable has. That means if I say underscore ADF track has read and write permission and not execute permission, so it won't get executed. And followingly, there are other variables that you can create here. One more thing, I have also given the permission to inject the scripts. Now, I will be using certain external API as well. So it's kind of like an endpoint that is not onto the GTM. So I will have to inject the same script into the permissions. So to do this, since we are using the add form, then the inject script that we are going to do here will be the src value of this. You can just visit this template, the addformhelp.com, and here you will find this highlighted link. Now, if you copy this into your global variables, then your injection of scripts will be possible, and you can write code for the same. And then logging to the console, I have selected that only log during debug and review, and not as always when the user is implementing the same. So now we talk about a detailed section that we have code. Now to get started with the code, we'll first have to inject the script that we created and call in some other functions. So first we have required the inject script object into the inject script identifier. And if I show you where exactly the inject script is happening, then basically, first of all, we have created certain other objects as well. We have required certain other objects so that we can use them on the go, so that whenever a user is interacting with our UI or inputting any kind of data there, we are able to just get hold of that. So if we talk about something very important, then everything that the user inputs into this UI gets stored into the data object. So, and that is directly integrated into this script. Uh, no need to include it externally, and it will be automatically included here. And also, if you want to log it, you can use log function. Now, before using log, you'll have to first require it log to console, and then you can log the data just to see that okay, whether it's working fine or not. So first of all, what I have done is I have called in the inject script object. Now there's a function for the same, and it has some variables, has some parameters. Now number one is the link that I injected in the permissions, as I mentioned previously. And then the second argument is data GTM on success. Now this is something that, okay, the function has returned successfully, or it has not returned successfully. That means there is some failure that is happening. And then there is another parameter called add form. Now after we have done this, all these objects will also be created. Now copy from window, what this does, it creates a copy of all the global variables, and or the call in window calls the global variables one by one. And set in window, using this function, we can actually set a global variable of our choice. And inject scripts, I have already explained. Then make table map, this is for manipulating the data that we are getting from a table and managing them. Then there is encode URI component, so it's basically used here for I'll just show you. Yeah, it gets a data that is basically data.custom divider. I'll tell you what exactly this is, and it stores it into the obj.divider. So basically, it's encoding it into base 64 encryption, and then it is being passed on to other places. That means we are kind of encoding the data. And then if I talk about, there are certain other declarations as well, like const variable array. Now this is some order variables UI that I've created. I'll just show you. So let's get back to the field section. Now here I have created a lot of fields, a lot of user interactable components here. So starting with this one, now by default, you get this section. Tag type will always be there, and you can now edit the permissions here. And if I say the tracking point ID, now I have added this by clicking on this add field button and selecting text input. When you will select this, a text input like this will be created. Now you can just rename this. That will be tracking point ID, and it can be according to your mnemonics or according to your template. And when I just show you this, you'll see that by default there is some value that's basically a help for a user to know what exactly he or she needs to input. So we can display it using value hint section. And then there is display name, then this is the title of the input. It gets available here. And then there is help text. So help text is nothing but this question mark. You can always enter some text here for the accessibility of the user if the user is not able to understand whether what has to be entered here. And if in the first place you want to add some more customizations to your input, then you can always select this settings button, and here you will get a lot of options like clear on copy, default value, display line count, enabling conditions, text as lists, And all these things you can just switch them on and pass on their respective values that are relevant. Now, if I just click on this, then you'll see there are other options like duplicate and move down, move to bottom. And I have selected this as always in summary so that the help text is like the tracking, the value hint is there, and always when the user is here, he is able to see this. Then there are validation rules that we can add. Like if we click this add rule button, and I have said that, okay, this value cannot be empty. You can choose between all these values available. I say this value cannot be empty. That means if the user has not inputted tracking point ID, then it will show an error. Okay. And the validation rule that I have already applied is, you can see add value must be, the value must be a positive integer, because definitely tracking ID cannot be a negative value. And following this, we can show the advanced setting. If supposingly this is not happening, we can always set an error message that input a positive value, or tracking ID cannot be negative, or invalid tracking ID. This can be the error message that we can display. So it comes under the advanced setting. You can just hide them if you don't want. Then we'll just collapse the first part. So this was the first part of the component, that means the tracking point ID. Then I have created basically a tick box for this thing that you can see for use custom divider. Now in this, I'm inputting a value, like I have created a nested field. That means like beside this text box, this is an input field that is being created. It's very near to this this tick box. So I have named it use custom divider, and the help text is specify a custom divider. You can add it by using this setting option. And then in the nested fields option, so in the nested field, first of all, I have added a custom divider here. So this is nothing but something that appears only when this thing is ticked. If I untick this, you'll see that the lower row disappears. So this is happening because we have set a enabling condition here, that is use divider equals true. That means if and only if use custom divider value is ticked, then only this input box will be available, or else it will not be visible. And then this is a simple input that I have added, and for that I have also created value hint so that more access can be granted to the user. Now this is the second component, and if I talk about the third component, then this is use page name. So user can always pass on its custom page name or some similar string. So for that, what I have done is I have created again I have created a tick box, and inside of that tick box I am taking a nested field here, and this nested field is also appearing only when the tick box is just selected by the user, else it won't show up. And I have passed on some relevant values, like enabling conditions is use page name equals to true, and the value hint is close, short, large. And similarly, I have created this third field. So if I just tell you something, that if a user inputs any value here, and if we go to the code section here, then the tracking ID that is coming here, that means on line number 16, you can see, as previously mentioned, that everything that a user inputs there will be directly stored into the data object, and we can simply access this by saying data dot tracking point ID. It's that simple, really. And for other values as well, we can get hold of them by just saying data dot the parameter name. So if I show you the other fields like use page name, this can also be accessed. Then there is a variable group. Now this is one of the detailed component of this custom template. You can first see that this is collapsible, that I can just expand or collapse it. So we have selected group style as collapsible section open. By default, it is open. And the display name is variables. And if I say supported variables. There is a row, adding a row section here, and now I have passed on only two of them. That means you can either say order ID or currency. How I have done it? I have passed on a nested field. And in this nested field, I have added a table, a simple table I have added. And for this thing, you can just use this add field button. Using this, you can add a simple table like this. And after that, coming to the top, you'll see first you'll have to add a column. After adding a column, you'll have to give it a name. So the first column name will be variable name and internal name will be name. Column type is drop down list because I want that user can select only between two values. Now the first value of the drop down will be order ID. Value is like for development, it is order ID. And the visibility name is currency, value is currency. So you can see this is the value. And if I say the value is INR, I add another row. And if I say order ID is something random, then what I've also done here is I have selected the column type as text field so that a user can actually input a value here. You can see I inputted a value here and not a drop down list because that cannot be inserted there. And if just I try to see this in the code as well, then you'll see we have also got hold of the same using this variable array. So everything that is coming there is getting stored into the variable array. And if I just run my code and try to show you, then right now I'm not logging this variable array, but if I just log it here, then you will be able to see the variable array that gets defined. I'll show you in the network directly, not a problem. Then explaining you the further fields that I have created. For this was for the variable group. Now I have created for custom variables. This is element that I have created called simple table, like I did before, but this time I haven't kept it collapsible. That means it will be visible all the time. You can see custom variables is visible all the time, and then we can add on some variable name here. Now in this thing, I have also implemented something different, and that is if you show advanced settings for the same, you will see that the default value I haven't passed, but value hint is example SV1. Now this we have discussed. Now what thing we want to notice here is we have added a very different validation rule this time. We have said this value must have a specific regular expression in this. And if you will see, the regular expression is quite a detailed one. So basically, if the value is not matching, if it is not matching this value, then it will show us a message. So as per my regular expression, if I say SV98, then it should pass on some values to me. And if I say enter, so basically what I'm trying to do here is we have successfully added a regular expression here, and we can also pass on some other values here that like we can definitely modify the value if it is the case, and can say custom value. And if I just run the code, then you'll see invalid input in template preview. So let me see. You'll see the custom variable is not valid. Why it's not valid? Because this regular expression is working in the background and it is not letting us input that. So this is how we have just tried to display this error message here. So that's all about all these fields. Now, if I just show you the code section, then all the values that we are getting hold of, we are pushing them into our global variables, and finally we are getting an object that we are encoding with the URI encoder. So to check that whether the encryption is successful or not, what we'll be doing is we will be just testing out the same in some time. But before that, since we have completed the making of this custom template, what we'll be doing is we will be just saving the same, and all the changes you need to save it using this button here. And I've already done that, so I'll just cross it away. A similar tag template will be created when you follow all these steps. After that, what you can do is you can go to your tags section. Now, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to get the tag for that custom template. That means we are trying to integrate that into our GTM. Now, first thing to note, if you have any confusion regarding Injectship, you can refer this documentation. So you will get to know Injectship in a bit more detail. So Injectship is nothing but the callbacks are given as function instances and are wrapped in JavaScript functions that call through to them. And the page load is it adds a script tag to the page to load the given URL asynchronously. So whatever URL we pass into the inject script, it loads up asynchronously. And the URL that we are loading here is this. So as soon as the tag will get fired, this will also get fired asynchronously. If I just create a new tag here, and for that you should keep your trigger as DOM ready. So in the tag configuration, when you'll just click on this button, you'll scroll a bit down, and under the custom section, you will be able to find your add form tag. And you can see that this is the tag that I created sometime before. I have already done this, so I'll just show you that. I have named it add form init, and in that I have just selected my custom template. Now very beautifully, all the fields that I have created are getting here, and the functionality is also same. We can add on some values here. We can just supposedly if I pass SV55, all the validation is also applied here. If I pass on some irrelevant or invalid values, then I will be getting the message here, and then there is advanced setting. Now this is quite similar to all the tags. So basically what I'm trying to show here is that we have successfully implemented the custom template that we created. And for the trigger, I have said that whenever the DOM is ready, just fire this time. I'll just save it and I'll just try to show you. Okay, we'll just save it. So if I just preview this, first of all, it will just take some time to get saved. And if I connect it to the tag assistant, okay, so there's nothing much here. We'll just navigate in some time. So, okay, now the DOM is ready. And if I check the DOM ready, what you will be seeing here is the tags fired is add form init, and it is successfully fired. And all the values that we pass there, that means the tracking ID, the support variables, the custom divider, and the custom page name that we pass on to the input, are all getting here in a very specific order. And also the array that we created here, the values that we specified, everything is just coming here. So similarly, you can just create a custom template and also integrate it using the GTM. And if you are very much satisfied with the template and you want to share it with the template community, the gallery of Google Tag Manager, then what you can do is you can just select this and you can just try to publish it using the like, first of all, you can definitely import somebody else's template in your template, and you can also export. So if I click on export, what you will be seeing that a download will get initiated. Now, this .tpl file can be used as a separate template, like it can be directly integrated into the GTM and followed on. And like that, you can just share it with your peers or with the community. So that's all about custom template creation. And in this video, we saw how we are going to build our own custom template. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.